Hi everyone, and welcome to our summer garden tour this year. Today I will take you through the garden and show you what's new, what has changed, and give you an update on the plants we have planted in spring this year. And today we're starting in an area you haven't really seen that much, I think, in videos, maybe just in the background. And here I would like to show you what we have planted. This one here, this Portuguese laurel, I think you've seen in a planting video, and we've actually planted a second one in front of it to fill out the area here under the Juniper. And behind me here we decided to plant this hedge. So this is a hedge of Japanese holly, and this is the first time that we found Japanese holly like that, because as you can see, this is one bush and it's grown specifically for use as hedges or screening, and that's perfect, and they are doing really well. We bought actually more of those, and we have some other spots where we planted them. We'll show you later. Here we have a mix of Boxwood and Japanese holly, so this is a good example to see how similar they actually look. So this is a Boxwood, this is a Japanese holly, this one is a Boxwood, and also those two are Boxwood there. So they're growing really nicely. We do not have any moth yet this year. Hopefully we will not have it at all. We did not have it last year, which is really fantastic. And then down here I wanted to show you this maple. This is our Tamukeyama Japanese maple, a Dissectum kind. So it has these deeply sliced leaves. And this maple I showed you on the Japanese garden cultivar videos. And that one used to be in a pot on the other side of the terrace. So we're now on the opposite side, or next to the terrace on the opposite side where this maple used to be. And we decided to plant it here so that it can actually weep down the stone wall that is right there. You'll see the other view later on in the garden tour. So here I wanted to show you that view in that area under the trees. I don't think you ever actually see this view. Here we have Skimmias, Japanese Skimmias. That's this one here, one down here, and in the background here I think it's 4 or 5 in total. They bloom every year really nicely. They smell very sweet, and they grow quite well. I had issues in the past growing Skimmias. They just didn't seem to like it where they were. And here under the trees they have mainly a shaded position and the soil stays moist. They really like it here. The rest of this area here is planted with Japanese hollies. They have also quite a shaded position, but they're all doing well. Adam actually pruned them just a few days ago. And also here you can see our black bamboo that we pruned in our black bamboo video that we released earlier this year. So that's still looking nice. It had new growth as well, but we already pruned that back too. And behind me here is the flowering plum, the one you usually see from the other side in spring. And so this is how it looks in summer from that view. In this area you can see some of the azaleas, and the ones that are not as full as the ones right in front of you are the Michiko azaleas. So those are the ones I used to talk about a lot in past videos that were not growing 100% in our garden. But the ones that are left, so those here, they're doing okay. They are not as full as you would want them to be really, but this is just how they grow, at least here in our climate, in our garden. The other ones in between, you can see the fuller ones. Those were planted this year in spring, I think it was. And you see this is a different cultivar, so they are a lot fuller and have a different leaf shape as well. But they're all doing well and growing really nicely in this area. Here they have a partial shade position. And then also I want to show you the moss here. We had rain the other day, and so the moss is really green and beautiful at the moment, not dry like it usually gets in summer. And also developing really well in this area. Then here we come to the first maples along the way. So this is the orange stream. You saw that one in the spring garden tour. It had the leaves open a little bit. And this is how it looks in that position. This one is a little darker. So I think this may be grown on a different cultivar, so on a different rootstock than other orange streams we have, because this one has a darker green leaves than the other orange streams. But also this one has a pretty much full shade position. And this one is a palmatum, growing really tall, also has a really nice lighter shape. And then back here we have the one that used to be a red Japanese maple, where the red one died, the graft. There was an Aureum, and now it's a green one. So basically the rootstock maple growing out. And we pruned that last year. Now from your perspective, you can see how tall that maple has become. Okay, so now we're here in our little dry landscape area. Behind me you can see the hedge of clumping bamboo that Adam has already pruned this year. So this normally grows out quite tall, but since we do not want to weep it over even more because the hedge will get too thick, we prune it every year to keep it to about the shape as it is now. This maple here is a Dissectum Nigrum. So this is normally a red cultivar, but because it has mainly shade in this position, you can see that the leaves are green, really. The color changes throughout the year though, and this is different every time. So normally it comes out in red, then they turn greenish, and then normally in autumn they turn red again. Now walking back there, you can see our stone wall in the background here that we've also reset actually a little bit. And here you can see the other perspective of the Tamukeyama maple that I showed you at the beginning. And this is where we thought it would look nice to that it just weeps down the stone wall here. Not too long, so we don't want to cover up the stone wall, but a little bit so it can grow down this way. Also, by the way, the Tamukeyama is normally a red cultivar, or it is a red cultivar. This year, you see it's more green, but also here it has a more shaded position as it used to have on the terrace. There was full sun, so it was more red. So now let's follow along the pathway. And here we have Japanese hollies. This is a different kind again, so they have rounder leaves and a little smaller leaves compared to other ones we have. It just depends on the cultivar. And this is a palmatum Aureum maple, so not the cerasifera, which has a really nice spot here and really likes it. So the leaf color you see in the sun is a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter green than other palmatum maples, for example. Let's have a look also in this area in front of our shade. And I show you what happened to the ferns this year. So you've seen in previous garden tours that we have loads of ferns growing in this area. We started out with actually just a few that we had in the garden, and they started spreading so much, especially here. This is a full shade position. And this year, because the summer is so hot and it was so dry recently with temperatures up to 35 degrees centigrade, or 95 degrees Fahrenheit, that is, that the ferns actually dried or started to dry off, even though they had water every day. So this is something we have not encountered before. You see, normally this is how it looks in autumn time before I clean them up. And this is already happening now this summer. So that's a new thing. Haven't seen that, but this is what it is. I'm sure they're gonna come back next year again. So I just wanted to show that because it has been hot, I think, in many places in the world this summer again, or still is. Now moving on here on the pathway. So this is a section that Adam calls the Maple Alley. And here is a perfect example where you can see palmatum maples here compared to cultivars, and you see the difference in size. So of course with cultivars, not all of them grow to the same height. Some grow taller, some not so much. But generally speaking, palmatum maples, so not being a specific cultivar, grow a lot taller. And you can see here a perfect comparison. So also these palmatum maples, we do not really prune a lot because they have this natural upright growing habit anyway, which is fantastic. And it starts to build this kind of tunnel here. This one here is a Viridis. And today I'm just mentioning the maple names as I walk by. We did just recently a video specifically about the maple cultivar, so if you're interested, please watch that video as well. So I'm just saying the names. This one here is an Osakazuki, beautiful cultivar as well. And down here we're coming to the section where we planted also some of the azaleas, like those two here this year in spring. So they are doing well. They need a lot of water in the first year, and the ones here are the Michiko ones again, so the remaining ones, but they are doing okay. This maple here is our Aconitifolium, or also called fern leaf maple. So it has larger leaves than other Japanese maples. And you can see how much that has grown out again. I pruned this last year in a video and it needs pruning again. So it's doing really well. And down here we have the emerald lace. And this year we encounter something that we have not seen before. The emerald lace is a dissected maple that is normally green in summer, but you can see this summer that the leaves are a little bit like red or orangey. This is interesting, we never had this before. And what you can also see is this, so a palmatum growing out. And this is what happened here, is that the rootstock maple, this emerald lace, is grafted onto, starts to grow out sometimes. This happens sometimes with cultivars. And here's a perfect example. So you suddenly find a different maple growing out from your cultivar you have. So these branches need to be pruned away. They come from the very bottom, from the rootstock maple, and they do not belong here, and they're not supposed to be here. But that's kind of funny to see. Now let's have a look at the pond in the background. Here you can see our Japanese irises. They usually lie down in summer because they're so tall. And here is the coral bark maple. So also very nice upright growth and lovely green leaf color. So with our pond here, I'm very happy this year because we do not use any filter system or any substances or anything like that in this big natural wildlife pond. We just have shells that filter the water and snails in there that eat all the algae. So now we're on the way to the corner of our garden, which I want to show you as well, the state it is in at the moment. And whilst we're doing that, look at this Portuguese laurel, how much that has grown since we have pruned it this spring. So soon, in a few weeks' time, it's time for the second pruning this year. Right, then let's move on, and I want to show you the only rose we have in the garden, which is this one here, and I find it so beautiful. So the the story to this is that the previous owners, they left certain plants in the garden here, and this rose was one of them. And it blooms every year from spring onwards to the end of October, even longer. And even though it has been replanted twice, I think, by us, it's doing so well, and it has these beautiful small pink blossoms. So we really love it, and this is why we have one rose growing in our garden. It needs a bit of propping up. You see some stems here are lying down because they're too long, but I'll do that when we sort out this area. Now, in the background, this is the corner we will be working on this year, and this area is not the nicest one to look at the moment. It's a slight disaster. You can see the big Japanese quince in the background, which I want to prune this year. I will wait a little bit because it's very hot down here in summer, so it's almost too hot to work down here. But then you see how this area looks. We have raspberries coming out here, morning glory everywhere, like even growing on the swing here. So this is yeah, really a disaster. Normally our garden doesn't look like that, and there's no other area that looks like that. It's just this here. But we'll sort this all out and make it all nice. So that's this, and also everything in the background we will landscape later on this year and next year. And you see on the ground here how burned everything is from the heat. So it gets really very hot down here. That's because it's like the bottom of a hill. So our garden is on a slight slope, and this is where it becomes flat, and this is why the heat sits in here. So all this area we want to landscape later on. So we're still working on the plans, but we'll do videos about all of this and keep you up to date. So here we are at the other end of the pathway, and at our small pond. I don't think you've seen this in a while, so let's have a look at that. This one is very overgrown with plants. They just seed themselves out so much. And many plants in this smaller pond actually come from the big pond. They have seeded themselves out, I think, with birds and with frogs moving around between ponds. There's a dragonfly as well flying around. This small pond, however, has algae in it. I'm not quite sure why. That's interesting because it has so many plants. But it's doing well, so the water will be clear again when it gets a bit cooler. And here, I wanted to show you the sacred bamboo, or Nandina domestica, and it's starting to get blossoms now in summer. Here they're starting to come, you can see, and these will turn into red berries then during the winter. So that's very nice. So that's the time now in the middle of summer when they start to bloom. They do not have a scent, the blossoms. They're just very small white blossoms. There are some here, but I'll show you in another one so you can see a close-up. So here you can see some of our pines. They're all doing well given the heat and the changes in weather. Down here we have the little Japanese red pine we planted also this year. It has a few brown tips, but that's okay. I see that in our pine sometimes. But all in all, doing well. So now let's move on over the bridge. These are the two coral bark maples. They will need pruning very soon. You see how much they have grown out. This is the sacred bamboo here that has more developed blossoms already, which I wanted to show you. So they're really cute, very small, look like little stars actually, with a little bit of yellow in the middle. And so this is the left-hand side of our garden, and this is always so nice to walk through here in summer because it's so cool, because most of this area is shaded out by the big pines growing here and by the larches, and this is really lovely in summer. It gives you this like refreshing, cooling feel. Here in the front you can see some boxwood. They have been growing here for several years, growing quite big. I'll prune those later on this summer. And here we grow also most of our rhododendron. They are all doing well. Maybe you've seen the blossom tour this year of all these rhododendron. Also back here. And in the background you can see the large palmatum maple in green right behind me, so you get the perspective how big it is. The big Norway maple in red, and here's another beautiful rhododendron growing really nicely. You see all the new growth here. And now today I will be walking a different way past this rhododendron. This is one that always gets blossoms every year, but for some reason I think the last 2 years it didn't really bloom. I'm not quite sure why. So anyway, hopefully next year. This is a really compact growing beautiful one. And now here I want to show you this mound. I don't think you see this a lot. This is Adam's mound, we call it. And we had a cypress type of tree here, like a smaller size. But this one we took out because we thought it's too full actually, the mound. So this is how it looks now, and it's a lot calmer and nicer. On this mound we have mainly or only actually conifers. Down here this is a low growing juniper. It has this bluish color which Adam really likes. And also back here is a juniper, and then here is a cedar, so the weeping cedars. This one is a low grafted one, so it stays that low, it just grows wider, not taller. And then back here you can see a different cedar that is also not really growing taller, but just grows wider. Very beautiful plants. Now moving here along the pathway, or before we do, this is our orange stream that you've also seen in the maple cultivar tour. And here actually you see how much new growth there is. And because it grows into the pathway, this is where Adam and I have a little argument this summer, because he wants to prune it back so you can walk on a pathway, which makes sense. For me it's like, I'm not sure I want to cut all this, because it will not, or the shape for me, that will not be balanced anymore of the maple. So I want to leave that to here at least, but that would mean you have to walk on the grass here. So we'll see with what we end up later on in summer. Now let's continue here.
Can I just say we both know that I won't win the argument?
We'll see about that. Okay, here we have another low growing juniper and Japanese Andromeda. And here you can see the Japanese azaleas. You see this entire area, and we had a video last year in spring or early summer it was, and this year again I pruned them a little bit so you get the idea of this entire big shape. And they have been blooming really nicely again this year in white, like every year. And they, you see again a different cultivar, they're very full. Also during the winter usually they do not lose too many leaves, because many cultivars here, they are actually semi-evergreen, so that means they lose about half of their leaves during the winter. Now I'm taking you through past our golden bamboo to show you some really large boxwoods we have planted in spring this year. So this entire area you can see here, we have kind of redesigned a little bit. What we had in there was this palmatum Aureum maple and the Jordan maple. What we have planted here is another Aureum that was in a pot, and we've taken out some small maples here. And then we put in those giant boxwoods. We have two here. You see how big they are, and we got them at a really very low price from a nursery, because they used to grow somewhere in the ground. Maybe it was the nursery's owner's boxwoods, I'm not sure, and they were up for sale, and they were so happy to be back in the ground again and you see how well they're growing. So they've been planted just a few weeks ago, and we're really happy with those. And we have a third one, which is just up here, also doing really well. And then what we have also done, you can see we put these stones here, they are basalt stones, to have a nicer border in this area, because this gravel is on a slope, and we have this edge guard, so this metal piece behind these stones. I think you saw that in previous videos, to keep water back and keep soil from running into the gravel. And in order to hide that a little bit, we put these basalt stones here. They are just set loosely on the gravel, and that looks really nice to give it a better border or edge.
What's with that boxwood there? Is that sun again?
Yes,
too hot?
Here, this is one of the new boxwoods we planted this year, and I think it was just too much sun. It's I do not have another explanation for it. It's not the moth. It's just, I think, burned, scorched from the sun this year. This area gets quite hot, and even though it was watered every day, it happens sometimes, unfortunately. We have the same size boxwoods just around there to see the comparison. You see this one here, planted at the same time. This is the exact same boxwood and exact same size. Position is pretty much the same regarding sun, and you see this one is scorched a tiny bit at the top here, but basically fine. So sometimes plants, I make the experience when they are newly planted, they have difficulties coping with summer heat sometimes, and this year again, it still is really hot. So this is sometimes difficult for new plants that aren't used to the environment yet. Next, let me give you an update on the little azaleas we planted here. So those are the Satsuki azaleas. We were so excited to find those. And despite the heat, they have done really, really well. One has suffered a little bit, but that's okay. And the other ones are growing really nicely. They have gained a lot of growth, actually, a lot of size. And even they had a lot of little blossoms. They're kind of hidden in between the leaves, but they had so many on all of them. And here a few, will show you a close-up, still on there. So that's really, really nice to see. We're so happy about this success with the Satsuki azaleas. So this is the final stop for our garden tour today. That's where we planted more horsetail in the recent video, and you can see it is doing quite well. We have new growth here and also here, so everywhere. So we're quite happy with the result. We have made the strip of horsetail a little wider and filled it in a little bit. The position here of the horsetail is mainly shade, which is not ideal as I find. So the one we planted at the well, which you also saw in that horsetail video, is doing better in more light and more sun. But this one is doing all right, and we will keep it here as it is. And this brings me to the end of our video. If you enjoyed the tour, please give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.